Good morning, or good afternoon, and welcome to NYMTC's Program Finance and Administrative Committee, or PFAC meeting. Representative of New York State Department of Transportation, and today, acting chair of PFAC. Being held virtually is provided by Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.79. The webinar participants' lines will remain muted throughout the meeting. The chat box is being monitored by NYMTC staff representatives. During the public participation portion of the meeting, registered participants will be unmuted individually. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on NYMTC's website within 2 weeks of this meeting. At this time, I would like to ask everyone's cooperation by remaining on mute while we begin the roll call. When I announce your agency, I ask each representative to state your name and whom you're representing. New York City DOT.
Good morning. This is Anne McGrain representing Acting Commissioner Margaret Forgione.
Thank you. New York City Department of City Planning.
Good morning. This is Jack Schmidt representing City Planning Commission Director and Chair Marisa Longo.
MTA.
Good morning. This is Stephanie Delisle representing Chairman Patrick Foy.
Nassau County.
Good morning. Sean Sally representing County Executive Laura Curran.
Suffolk County.
This is Chris Chatterton representing County Executive Steve Ballone.
Rockland County.
Pat Gurdon representing County Executive Ed Day.
Putnam County.
Sandra Fusco representing County Executive Mary Ellen O'Dell.
Westchester County.
Craig Lader representing County Executive George Latimer.
FTA. FTA?
No.
Okay. FHWA.
Money, FHWA New York Division, representing Division Administrator Rick Markey.
New Jersey Transit. NJTPA.
Hi, David Barron, NJTPA Deputy Executive Director representing our Executive Director, Mary Amin.
Thank you. US EPA.
Anna Greenberg, EPA Region 2, representing Regional Administrator Peter Lopez.
Port Authority.
Good morning. This is Jay Sheffield representing Executive Director Rick Cotton.
And NYSDEC. Thank you. By my count, under our operating procedures, we have a quorum for today's meeting. I do not have any remarks for today, so we'll move on to our presentation. Today we'll be given a presentation by Peter Yoon of the Federal Highway Administration titled STEP, Safe Transportation for Every Pedestrian, Making Crossing Safer One Step at a Time. I will ask that Emmett DeVitt of the Federal Highway Administration introduce Mr. Yoon. Emmett?
So Ian, Emmett is not on, so I'm going to take that quickly. This is Jerry Bogaz. Peter Yoon is a transportation safety engineer with FHWA's Resource Center, their safety and design technical service team, working from home in Washington State. Thank you, Peter, for being on so early where you are. He is currently a co-lead for the STEP initiative and assists in the pedestrian and bicycle safety-focused approach to safety. In both initiatives, he develops and delivers training, provides technical assistance in various forms, such as roadway safety audits. He is currently working on virtual training and technical assistance delivery. Peter has been with the Federal Highway Administration for 22 years, and he is a graduate of Washington State University, where he received a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. Peter, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you for inviting me. It's good to be back in New York, even though it's virtually. And Federal Highways has been in New York since 2004, ever since it was a focus city for pedestrian safety. But you guys have made some great progress, and it's been some time since I've been back there doing some workshops But just want to, in some senses, is maybe getting back to a little review with regards to some of the things that we're trying to get out to the rest of the country, but many of the things that I'm going to be talking about, or maybe most all things that those in New York have done. So and New York actually is a leader in pedestrian safety. We've been very happy to tell the rest of the country the success stories that you guys have had, but we know that there's still a long ways to go. And so continuing to take one step at a time and making improvements to save pedestrians' lives. And so thank you for inviting me and being able to speak to you. These are the latest numbers which came out just recently in our US DOT Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. So in many ways, pedestrian safety, I think in 2004, when I first started, it was sort of the stepchild of the safety world. And, you know, there was roadway departure, intersections, and then pedestrians were sort of the third category as far as the most fatalities. But in 2020, 2021, in these past few years, I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more emphasis on pedestrian safety, not only due to the fact of walkability, but because of the numbers are going up and in the wrong direction, unfortunately. You can see here in this graph that from 2010 to 2019, a slow increase. We did have a little bit of you know, lowering in 2019, but we'll see what 2020 does. But overall, 44% increase in pedestrian fatalities between 2010 to 2019, while all other highway fatalities only increased by 9%. And so we've got a long ways to go. And get this advanced. And so every day counts. This is, we're still in round 5. Some of you might have attended the EDC Everyday Counts Initiative 6, round 6, just recently, but we are wrapping up on 5. And STEP will continue to continue into 2021, maybe half of the year or to the rest of the year. But the Resource Center of Federal Highways will always be here to support New York and other states with regards to continuing to improve pedestrian safety. But for those that are not familiar with Everyday Counts, it's a state-based model to identify and rapidly deploy proven but underutilized innovations. Many of the treatments I'm going to be talking about today here very briefly, they are treatments that you're familiar with. They've been deployed, but so much across the country that they're underutilized, and yet they are so effective. EDC count, Everyday Counts, covers more than just safety, though. Several different categories, as you can see here, but obviously in my program, safety is number one and a priority. So let me get into STEP. Why STEP? Well, over 72% of pedestrian fatalities occur at non-intersection locations, meaning mid-block. And I suspect that if I asked everyone, if I saw it out there virtually, how many hands would go up if people cross mid-block locations, even without a marked crosswalk, I suspect many hands would go up. Well, 72% of pedestrian fatalities occur at these mid-block location crossings. Not all of them are illegal. You know, we think of jaywalking as being something maybe that's not, you know, it's illegal, but that's not always the case, and it depends. But we do know that the majority of fatals and serious injuries happen when people are crossing the roadway. About 10 to maybe 12% nationally are walking along the road crashes, but the majority are crossing. And so 72% non-intersection, but roughly 27% of pedestrian fatalities occur at intersections, and about 16 to 17% of those more at uncontrolled locations, meaning no signals or stop signs. Another thing before I get into the spectacular 7 is just wanting to talk to you about speed. New York is very well aware of the speed issue and how speed impacts pedestrians, but just a very quick review here with regards to the fact that the lower the speed, you know, the less risk of death. 23 miles per hour, 10% risk of death, while at 58, 90%. And then that 42, 50%, that 50-50. And so speed is something that all these treatments are going to have a bit of an effect on with regards to, and that's very important. Now, one thing I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, if someone can let me know if you can hear the audio.
What you're about to see will change your mind about speed.
Good, Peter.
One traveling.
Can you hear it?
The other is 65.
Yes.
Doesn't change it.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Both drivers first react, and then a moment later, they brake. And things start to get interesting. Out here, the difference is extraordinary. In the last 5 meters of braking, wipe off half the speed. So this car is still doing 32 k's. This one also hits, but only at 5 k's. So no matter how good a driver you are, 5 k's difference up there makes 27 k's difference down here.
So pretty powerful PSA out of Australia in those, the 60 kilometers, they use the kilometers metric system. And so that translates to 37 miles per hour and 40 miles per hour. And you can see that difference it makes down at the end there with the braking where that first vehicle has that impact. And imagine if this is the crosswalk with the pedestrian. And so speed being and it's just that 3 mile per hour difference that really makes that huge difference. And so, you know, safe system is something that Federal Highways is going to be, you're going to hear a lot more from, and it's based upon the fact that everybody makes, you know, there is going to be mistakes made, but we don't want those mistakes to be fatal type situations. And safe speeds is a very important part of the safe system. And so with regards to STEP, that's going to affect that. Now, one other little bit of history before I get into the countermeasures is with regards to how this all started. There's a study back in 2005 called Safety Effects of Marked versus Unmarked Crosswalks at Uncontrolled Locations. And what this study did was it looked at 1,000 marked crosswalks and 1,000 comparison unmarked locations. And what it found, and all these locations were at 40 miles per hour or less. And what it found was that on 2-lane roads, there was really no significant difference in the crash rate, whether you marked a crosswalk or whether you didn't. But on multi-lane roads, under 12,000 ADT or average daily traffic, once again, no significant difference in the crash rate, whether the only thing you did was a marked crosswalk or not. But over 12,000 ADT with no median, or over 15,000 ADT even with the median, if all you did was a marked crosswalk, you could actually expect to see more crashes at that location than if you didn't do anything at all. Now, let me repeat that because this is a very important part of the step, and I think something that's very surprising to a lot of people. Over 12,000 ADT with no median, or over 15,000 ADT even with the median, if all you did was a marked crosswalk, you could expect to see more crashes at that location than if you didn't do anything at all. So what does that mean? Should we not put marked crosswalks out there? Well, pedestrians are still going to be crossing at these locations because there's origins, destinations. People need to get places, and they're not going to walk miles apart to go to a controlled location. And so what this study said is that you need to do more than just a marked crosswalk. And in that 2005 study, it had a table where it had the number of lanes, the ADT, average daily traffic, and various speeds. And it said whether it was good candidates for marked crosswalk or you need to do more. The thing it didn't have is the type of treatments. What we did in 2018 was develop this guide for improving pedestrian safety at uncontrolled crossing locations, where we put in the spectacular 6 different treatments with regards to the conditions. So all of these treatments, they have sort of their sweet spot, and we helped identify where those sort of sweet spots where it's ideal to put in the different treatments. So table 1 is something I'll come back to a little bit later, but let me go over those spectacular 7. Now only spectacular 6 of these are in this guide. Okay, the LPI, leading pedestrian interval, which New York I assume is very familiar with, that is a signalized location. This guide, particular one I'm going to be talking about, only deals with uncontrolled crossing locations. So let me start with the crosswalk visibility enhancement. There's a crash reduction factor of 23 to 48%. And what crash reduction factors are basically is if you don't have it and you put in these treatments, you can expect under the situations that were in the research report or in these various case studies, what they found, that you can expect sort of that range of reduction in the crashes. Under crosswalk visibility enhancements, we have multiple sort of categories. We start out with some of the simple things with regards to high visibility marked crosswalks, low cost type treatments that any agency can do. Instead of going with the minimum, just 2 transverse lines, going with a higher visibility marked crosswalk like a continental or offset continental. Then we can enhance those with different types of signing, the in-street signs or the W11-2 signs, which a lot of people are familiar with, and then the fluorescent yellow-green, which really draws the attention, which specifically is for pedestrians and cyclists. And then we also have the advanced stop bar and the stop yield sign that goes with it. Whether it's a stop bar or a yield line, depending on state law, you'd use one of those, and that's just pulling back that stop bar or line 30 feet ideally in a situation, 20 to 50 feet in the NYMTC or manual uniform traffic control devices. But it gives that ability for the sight triangles to increase for pedestrians and drivers to be able to see each other. The other thing is intersection geometry falls under this. To be able to, curb extensions, New York, I know there's a lot of these. The curb radii can also have an effect on the speed of vehicles, how fast they're making those turns. The sight, once again, sight lines with regards to sight distance, maybe park setbacks so that you can open up those lines. And then in the lower right-hand corner, protected right turn lanes where you have really wide lanes dedicated for to even get trucks. We need to accommodate all types of modes, and trucks do need to make those turns. But if they're not there and vehicles are making those turns very quickly, you can do something similar to a truck apron on a roundabout and do that around that curve. So it allows trucks to go, but vehicles to make slow right turn speed turns. The other thing is lighting. Over 50, close to 50% of pedestrian crashes do occur in dark conditions, and lighting is one of the best things that you can do to help with regards to getting drivers to be able to detect pedestrians and then to slow down. And maybe it's that 3 mile per hour difference, to be able to have them first see them, pull off the gas a bit and make that difference. Now, if it's directly over the crosswalk, it creates sort of a silhouette effect with regards to the pedestrian. So we are recommending that you put the lighting in front of the crosswalk. It does light up the pedestrian much better. Next, we're going to go into some traffic calming. The raised crosswalk, you're probably familiar with these as well. It's a form of vertical deflection rather than horizontal. A lot of different mechanisms out there, but we do have a crash reduction factor of 45% for raised crosswalks. And all of these treatments, they sort of have their sweet spot, as they stated. And here we've got 2 or 3 lane roads, speed limits of about 30 miles per hour or less, and ADTs, average daily traffic, below 9,000. And so we are sort of working our way up with regards to sort of the lower cost treatments and the type of roads. You see a lot of times raised crosswalks on lower type of residential roads, or maybe on lower speed arterials and so forth. So next we have pedestrian refuge islands. This is an oldie but a goodie. If you have opportunity for in a 2-way left turn lane, or even other places where they've done some geometry changes, that to be able to put in a pedestrian refuge island where pedestrians only need to look at traffic in one direction, look for a gap, get out to the island, and then look for traffic in the other direction. These in a series also can help with regards to doing some traffic calming as well. And you can see from this image too that we've done some of the other applications with the high visibly marked crosswalks. Combinations don't have to be just by themselves, even though they do have a good effect by themselves. And you can see the picture on the upper left-hand corner. Would you rather be standing on 2 yellow lines or having a pedestrian refuge island? Also, continuous median islands can be beneficial with regards to access management. And maybe you can't get marked crosswalks every 100 feet, but a continuous raised island can still benefit pedestrians. Next, we go to the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, also known as the RFB. And as I said, the Spectacular 6 here, we sort of use the Marvel Comics theme, and with regards to the fact that all superheroes, these treatments are super, but one died and then came back to life. The attorneys, there was a patent lawsuit, but we're thankful that somebody brought it back to life, released the patent. And these are very effective. Once again, these are sort of that sweet spot area of about 30 to 35 miles per hour, probably 4 lanes maximum, I would say. These are in interim approval. They're not quite yet in the NYMTC yet. I believe in the next edition that they will be. But these are a conspicuity device, and you have a very bright LED flash rate that vehicles can see well in advance of the crosswalk, so that they can slow down. Once again, maybe that 3 mile per hour difference to go from a fatal or serious injury to a minor or crash avoidance altogether. Now, these do have various requirements in the interim approval, one of them being that they need to be on both sides of the roadway. So you have one on the right, and then if you have a median, you can even have it in the median or on the far left. So that's one of the requirements. We do ask that you take a look at the interim approval. But at some point, you're going to get to multiple lanes, higher speeds, 48 miles per hour or maybe higher. The pedestrian hybrid beacon is really that next level where we're going to. Now, the pedestrian, the RFB is around $12,000 for a pair to install outside of maybe other types of things like curb ramps and things that you might need to put in. The pedestrian hybrid beacon gets a little bit higher. There are some PHBs right now in Arizona that they're working on with solar and more compact units, and the prices are coming down. But these are a little more on the higher end, but they are very effective with regards to helping pedestrians get across high-speed, multi-lane roadways. And so if you can't meet the warrant for a pedestrian signal, which is like 93 pedestrians per hour, maybe in New York you get a lot of those, but in the rest of the part of the country, not as often. And I'm sure even in some parts of New York, 93 pedestrians per hour is hard to reach. But with the pedestrian hybrid beacon, 20 pedestrians per hour are the guidelines that they give. And so much easier to install, but really helps with regards to getting those pedestrians across those mid-block and even intersection locations. This is the sequence. It's blanked out. It goes to a flashing yellow, flat, and then a solid yellow, and then the solid red. And that's where the pedestrian gets the walk signal. It goes to the wig-wag, where it starts the clearance interval. And so therefore, in that wig-wag, it's where a lot of people get confused, or not a lot of people, I shouldn't say that. People can maybe not move forward. In a wig-wag situation, it's stop and go. Stop, look for pedestrians, and then they can proceed. So in many ways, the pedestrian hybrid beacon can actually be a great balance for traffic engineers as far as getting pedestrians safely across the roadway, but still helping with traffic progression. So we really like these. Once again, at higher speed, multi-lane roadways, very effective. And then road diets. New York has been very familiar with road diets, 19 to 47%. Other parts of the country, they call them road buffets because they like choices and not everyone likes diets. But either way, whatever you want to call them, they're effective. The classic 4 to 3 is where you help avoid, get rid of that multi-threat situation where that first car stops and then that second car maybe doesn't see the pedestrian. This in one travel lane in each direction has that first car set the speed. And so it is a form of somewhat traffic calming. It's great. Road diets are great for complete streets. A road is open 24/7, and you really want to design it for who the road users are for the entire day rather than just peak hour. So here's an example. In San Diego, I suspect that you have a lot of great examples in New York as well, but this one I particularly like because New York does roundabouts. In this particular one, it was a road diet done with a series of roundabouts. Worked very well, and it also helps with business revitalization, which New York also, I'm sure, has many stories as well. So with that, that is the Spectacular 6. Those are the treatments that were in the guide for improving pedestrian safety for uncontrolled crossing locations. The guide shows a 6-step process which agencies can take and improve their pedestrian safety over time. I am going to sort of emphasize one area besides table 1, which shows the different treatments. Once again, these are all at 40 miles per hour or less. Anything above 40 miles per hour, I should also note, really needs to have more than just a marked crosswalk. But step 2 in the guide says inventory conditions and prioritize locations. I would just emphasize this, that for, since this is the Metropolitan Transportation Council, that with your different agencies, just doing a marked crosswalk inventory and comparing those marked crosswalks to this table 1 or something similar, so that you know that you're doing more, those situations that you're not making it worse for pedestrians with just a marked crosswalk, when maybe you need to do more than that. And so over time, if you do that inventory and keep it consistent with this table, you're going to drive down fatalities, but overall, you're going to make it a lot better walking environment for pedestrians as well. And also, it does help with regards to the liability of transportation agencies because you're doing a consistent method with regards to how you mark the crosswalks. So I'll leave it with that. As far as the Spectacular 6, our 7th one here, which is not in that guide, deleting pedestrian interval, it's at 3 to 5 seconds head start. 13% crash reduction factor, although we are seeing some reports, case studies coming in where they are getting into the upper 50, mid 50% range with regards to crash reduction factors. Very low cost, as long as you have the right type of hardware, like the APS, accessible pedestrian signals, but just retiming things, 3 to 5 second head start for pedestrians to get out, establish into the crosswalk, so those right turners and left turning vehicles can see them and then stop for them. So with that, once again, with the APS, especially for the blind, the visibly impaired, so that you need to have those APS so that they know that they can go ahead and start that 3 to 5 seconds before the vehicle is still. With that, I thank you, and remember to walk safe, but cross safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I'll ask, do any of the panel members have any questions for Peter? Did we receive any questions on the chat?
I do know I spoke a little fast. Normally people think I'm from New York, but I am not, but let's see.
We currently don't have any questions on the chat.
Jessica, can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, I can't figure out the chat.
Oh, yes, go for it.
Sorry, hi, it's Ron Epstein. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you.
So let me ask you a question. So these are all great, initiatives, and anything and everything we can do to enhance our pedestrian safety and bicyclists as well is welcome. I'm wondering, so, part of it is making sure that pedestrian and bicyclists are visible, that there's the appropriate warning devices. What I'm actually trying to get at is where has FHWA kind of come into treatments that maybe if there's an impaired pedestrian, there would be some sort of, some treatment that might give that person some pause and kind of make their way back onto the safe zone.
So I guess for ADA, under the Department of Justice, the American Disabilities Act requires that whenever you provide, facilities, that you do have to make it accessible. That's just the overarching general principle. And so when you're putting in, such as the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, where it does have a push button, it's the APS message is different from the PHB, pedestrian hybrid beacon, or a signal. But those are required to let them know with a locator tone, and also to let them know when they can go ahead and start those crossings. Now, I'm not sure if you're referring to maybe outside of APS, but curb ramps. We do have an entire workshop dedicated towards making sure that our pedestrian facilities are accessible. But mainly it is the APS. And then with regards to the intersection geometry of the pedestrian refuge islands, making sure that you can, the correct alignment for someone who's caning to be able to get through. So I'm not sure if I quite understood your question, if it was a specific.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'll be more direct. I'm sorry. So one of the things that I've noticed over the years when it comes to the number of pedestrian accidents and fatalities is that, I should say crashes and fatalities, is that the individual themselves may be under the influence of either alcohol or drugs. And I'm wondering if there's any design work that has been done to, I don't know how you fix that, right? But I'm just wondering if there's any design work that's been done to try and, identify an individual who may be doing something they shouldn't by, either, have you looked at advanced strategies like LiDAR or something that would give a warning to an individual?
Yeah, so great question. And that is something with regards to technology that it is going to be improving. But right now with federal highways, what we are, until some of that technology comes through, at nighttime lighting, as I mentioned, it's probably one of the best things for drivers to be able to detect a pedestrian impaired or in the road, whether they're in the roadway or about to cross. The other thing is just the street design itself. I think, many examples in New York, but you guys have that 25 mile per hour speed. Keeping those speeds low, especially where, you're going to have those type of activities. business districts with bars and other places where you're going to see those type of pedestrians. Keeping speeds low can help. The slower a vehicle is going, the better reaction time it's that they can react and stop. That you can maybe go from a fatal to a minor injury or rather than maybe a crash. But that's where that safe system that we are sort of transitioning to make a crash survivable. And so it's about the speed really, and then the different ways of managing kinetic energy. Hopefully that answer.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Peter. This is Ian Francis. Leading pedestrian intervals. I think it's a nice feature, and it protects the pedestrians at those intersections. But as far as where they should be distributed, where should it be focused? Because I find, I don't know if you've walked in Manhattan lately, but if you're walking up 7th Avenue, I think every intersection has it. But when you get to different intersections away from 7th, you don't have it. So could it be training pedestrians in the long sense that they may continue walking when they shouldn't be? Has anyone taken a look at that?
Yeah, so that is something that we are looking more at. There are various cities like Austin that just in their downtown area did 110 transitioned, did 110 LPI, and there are other cities that have done it sort of system-wide. San Francisco is another one. We are learning more with regards to sort of the effects of maybe some places. You can do them at intersection specific, or you can do them system-wide or systemically. There's different mechanisms. But I don't know of any reports right now comparing the different means, and so that is something that I can look into more. We are trying to produce a best practices guide that should be coming out within the next maybe month or two with regards to different agencies and sort of the way that they apply LPIs.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any additional questions for Peter? Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ron Epstein. He is the chair of PFAC. Ron?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, or I should say good afternoon, everybody. My apologies for my inability to tell time. It's actually been somewhat of a crazy morning, as one would imagine, with the storm and other issues going on. But I hope everybody is safe and well. And I see we have a fair number of individuals on the phone, so thank you. And I hope, again, everybody is well. We're now going to start the public participation segment of the meeting. We do have staff that are monitoring the chat feature, and any comments that are typed into the chat that are relevant to transportation and planning will be reviewed and included in the meeting synopsis. In addition, we've set aside 15 minutes of the agenda to hear from participants who have pre-registered. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start off by asking, call you by name. If you could limit your comments to relevant issues pertaining to this body, as well as limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, so that we can provide an opportunity for everybody who is registered to speak this afternoon. So with that, I would like to ask Chauncey Young from the Bronx Council of Environmental Equality to unmute. And Chauncey, the mic should be yours.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you allowing us here. And I also really enjoyed Peter's presentation. And I think you'll see that this is directly in line with some of the suggestions that Peter is making about creating safe pedestrian and bicycle access. We're here today to talk about the Depot Place Bridge Project, which is a bridge project that is for the New York State DOT. I want to mention the significance of the bridge, as there's actually 3 uses for the bridge. One is access to the Major Deegan I-87 South. It's also access to the High Bridge MTA car washing stations, but it is also the only access point in the South to the Harlem River Greenway and to numerous parks and recreational spaces along the waterfront. We actually have brought this to the attention of New York State DOT, the New York City DOT, New York City Parks, and New York State Parks and local elected officials in August 2019. We led a tour with all of the above in November 2019, and state electeds agree with us, advocates and community members, as do New York City DOT, New York City Parks, and New York State Parks about the importance of this bridge and the importance of pedestrian access. This bridge is so important for bicycle and pedestrian access because, as I mentioned, it's only one of two access points to the Harlem River Greenway, to the southern access point to Bridge Park South, Bridge Park, and Robert Clemente State Park. It is also accessible from the bridge, oldest standing bridge in New York City, via marked bicycle paths and a stairway that will be opened in the next few months that community members advocated for the funding. The High Bridge will be open 6 years this June at the cost of $60 million. The stairs will be open this June at a cost of $6 million. Bridge Park was renovated 5 years ago at a cost of $6 million. Bridge Park South is currently undergoing renovations at the cost of $6 million. And Robert Clemente State Park had recently a $100 million renovation to make it accessible and more useful to the community. The Harlem River Greenway is a recognized New York City greenway connecting Depot Place Bridge to Robert Clemente State Park. There are also future plans to connect this section of the Harlem River Greenway to Van Cortlandt Park and the New York State Empire State Trail, which would connect this greenway, the High Bridge community, and the South Bronx community to over 750 miles of trails for pedestrians and bicyclists. The only obstacle for this happening is New York State DOT working with the city, state agencies, and the community to allow pedestrian access. Unfortunately, despite numerous meetings with elected officials and community members, New York State DOT is providing 50% of the total available area of the bridge to parking for 16 police vans, removing one existing sidewalk on the southern side of this bridge and replacing a larger existing sidewalk with a 5-foot sidewalk for both pedestrians and bicycles to use to access the park in both directions. The community, elected officials, and the community board are calling on the New York State DOT to meet the design plans that the New York City Department of Transportation has made years ago for the bridge, which would call for a two-way separated bicycle path on the northern side of the bridge. This is essential because this is the only access point to this greenway, and we really want the support of this agency, as we've gotten the support of all of our elected officials and our community board in pushing for New York State DOT to reconsider the plans and prioritize pedestrian bicycle access for our parks and greenways. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next registered speaker is Dr. Robert Fenzuzzi. I apologize if I pronounce that wrong. Please unmic. And you are with the Bronx Council on Environmental Quality.
I am. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. That's Dr. Robert Fenzuzzi. So thank you everyone for taking the time. The New York State DOT plan for the Depot Place Bridge, as my colleague Sean C. Young just mentioned, has brought the 28-year-old Harlem River Greenway work to an impasse. As an all-volunteer organization that has shaped this vision from the outset, Bronx Council for Environmental Quality is at odds with any federal, state, or local transportation plan that does not incorporate this greenway. The upland connections for this greenway create a myriad of recreational health benefits for vulnerable communities who, unlike any other New York City community, does not have a clear pathway to their contiguous water body. The importance of a greenway to a regional transportation system is so fundamental and nationally recognized that we need to ask for NYMTC's help in rectifying this omission and planning Depot Bridge access around it. As my colleague Chauncey said, this is part of the Greenway state greenway system. But there's a location in 28-year history that makes the Harlem River Greenway special. BCEQ was at the table in 1993 and again in 2007 when the Harlem River Greenway was included in a Bronx Greenway plan. Each of these reports brought stakeholders together from local, state, and federal levels, including USGS and the Coast Guard. Yes, we also worked with the local NYPD precinct, whose parking needs are at issue here. Since that first plan, there have been 29 more reports and plans for the Harlem River Greenway. All of them encourage bike and pedestrian access across this bridge into the river, except the latest one. Of these plans, we invite you to look carefully at the Bronx Council for Environmental Quality's Brownfield Opportunity Area Nomination Report of 2015. Building off the Harlem River Working Group, the BECQ BOA report made the Harlem River Greenway integral to the economic development incentives that are now bringing development to BOA sites along the Harlem River. That BOA plan includes Depot Place Bridge within Strategic Site 3, a good place from which to work if NYMTC were to agree to revise this current plan around the Harlem River Greenway. Greenway planning, as you know, is all about people. Indeed, no stakeholder has been more important to this process, to this 28-year-old process, than New York City's Community Board for Community. The Harlem River Greenway is now a flashpoint for community activism that needs and wants the same riverfront access that other communities have. This has been going on for almost 30 years. Do we really want to frustrate it now? Removing barriers to waterfront access is the work of environmental justice. Please help us. Don't compound the barriers that are already there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. The next registered speaker is Karen Argente, also from the Bronx Council on Environmental Quality. Karen, you're unmuted.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you have heard from Chauncey and from Robert, that we really need your help to make this a safe way for people, children, bicycles, handicaps, to come and visit the Greenway. And a 5-foot pathway is just not adequate in New York City. It doesn't meet the criteria of New York City DOT. And furthermore, it's a dangerous intersection. We provided some documents that we presented to Community Board 4, and you will see that the trucks that will be entering this entrance from the streets will be pretty large. And if they are, they're going to have some problem doing some turns. And so people's lives are at stake here. I wanted to give you a little history about why the Bronx Council for Environmental Quality got involved in the Harlem River. We had completed working for the first 30 years. We're now celebrating 50 years as a volunteer organization. We completed working the first 30 years on the Bronx River, and we helped spur the Bronx River Alliance and the Bronx River Greenway, which is in most of your documents. In 2000, we decided it was time for us to move on, and that other people were taking care of what needed to be done. And we started looking at how we could get clean water out of the Harlem River. And the only way we could get clean water for the Harlem River is we get people to the river. And that's why we thought it was absolutely important to do the Greenway. We started out with the original BOA in 2004, all volunteers, by the way, and we hired professionals to do the study. Our study is a little bit different than others. We use the Greenway as a mechanism to clean the pollutants along the Greenway area, and hoping that that would be a mechanism to protect the water in the Harlem River. We were able to get the river designated a Brownfield Opportunity Area, which is about 150. We don't take into the end of like Webster Avenue, but we are going as far as I would say beyond the highway. So we have the highway, we have the railroad, and then we have the Greenway. And most of the area is parkland, And so it's, some pieces we had to fight really hard to get, like the depot place has always been a fight. It was occupied by some kind of strange people, and we managed to get them removed through the Trust for Public Lands. And they then dedicated that land over to the Parks Department. And now we're finally getting a park. We'd like to be able to get to the park. And so this is the only way that we can do this. The other way that you could get to this park would be from Roberto Clemente State Park, but that's pretty far away. So I guess Depot Place, you would say, would be probably like 164th Street. And whereas Roberto Clemente is probably about 174th Street. So that's 10 blocks. So we really need your help. And we need to get this pathway, extended. Plus, we will be interested in working with the police department to help them get, because that 11 parking spots are not adequate for what their needs are at this time. They need many more parking spots than that. So this is like a very strange project, and it should be made safer for the people that are going to be working here. And not to mention the fact that there's a new school up the block from the entranceway. We also are part of the Urban Waters Federal Partnership. We have been since, I forget, was it 2000? Oh, was it probably around 2012? We were one of the first in the country to be put into that. And so we've been asking for the state DOT to come to the meetings, or the federal DOT, because transportation is a really important part of everything that we would be doing for the Harlem and also for the Bronx River, which is both projects are in there. And we'd love for you guys to join us. And then the Community Board 4, who has supported this project and has been our partner for all these years since we talked about what they needed. We advocate for them. Community Board 4, it would like to have meetings with NYMTC, or at least updates on what your projects are going on. So, I mean, part of the problem is a state agency comes in and does something, and there is community boards in New York City, but nobody's talking to the community boards about what's going on. We didn't even describe to you how the agency took a place that we were going to use to access 161st Street, and they just filled it in without listening to us, and just destroyed a whole entranceway for us to get to 161st Street. We can't get to 161st Street from Depot Place because the MTA has their station there to clean all the trains. So we really need your help, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And of course, it wouldn't be a PFAC meeting without our next speaker, Murray Bowden. Murray, you're on mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. On Monday, the Federal Highway Administration released the new manual on uniform traffic control devices. In it, in the crosswalk section, there are only 3 crosswalks. And that's a major step forward. So they have to be implemented. There's the bar and the separated bar and a ladder. But if you use the ladder and it's on an angle, it doesn't recognize for the driver. So you wind up with only 2 crosswalks. The parallel bar, which is used standard the rest of the world, and you're going to have to stop and use the ladder. If you go through the new diagrams, you'll see that there are a number of crosswalks shown where the bars are parallel to the direction of traffic. And Peter, it's your responsibility to have all of those pictures on the emails I get from the government show only the bar crosswalk. Major problem is enforcement. What's written there is good, but the various state agencies are not following it. When there is an obstruction on a driver's left, the line is yellow. Period. There is no question. And yet, too many agencies ignore that. I've written too many emails about this. It's gotten to the top safety people in various states and gotten nowhere. Various people have asked me to be polite in what I say in public. I'm trying. I'm 87. For those of you who don't know me, I was part of the three-person team who designed a dotted line that separates an auxiliary lane. I've been part of the markings committee of the National Committee for maybe 20, 25 years. The manual is pretty good, and it will be better. The new one is going to be surprisingly well done. But the problem is enforcement. Who will take responsibility to see that on a driver's left, the line is yellow? They've been doing, Robert Moses made a mistake many, many years ago. And when he designed the Bronx River Parkway, he made that channelizing line white on both sides because there were no lines on the road at the time. Unwinding Robert Moses rules, very, very difficult. I'm 87. I'm going to be out of here pretty soon. Can't last much longer. So our grandson's generation, that's got to take over. So out there, Peter, which of you and your team is going to check the Federal Highway Administration's emails and make sure every picture that I see has the correct bar crosswalk? I can't do it. I'm over time. To those people who on this committee who have helped me over the years, thank you very much. I could not have done this alone. Ron, glad to hear you're here today. It's been a long time we know each other. You got a tough job to do. I'm sure you'll do it well. And my best regards to all those who have helped me get to this point. I'm done. Bye.
Thank you, Murray. And like I said, something tells me you'll be around a lot longer than I will. So stay in there. So, Andrea, are there any other speakers in the queue?
No, there is not.
There are not. Okay, so hearing that, I think what we will do is move on to the next section of the agenda, which is to accept the October 22nd meeting synopsis. So I guess, can I have a motion to accept the 2020 synopsis meeting notes?
So moved. Craig Later, Westchester County.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second, Anne McGrain, New York City DOT.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will now vote by roll call, starting with the Hudson Valley. Putnam.
Aye.
Thank you. Rockland. I'm sorry, Rockland.
Aye.
Thank you. Westchester?
Aye.
Thank you. On Long Island, Nassau?
Aye.
Thank you. Suffolk?
Aye.
New York City, DOT?
Aye.
Thank you. DCP?
Aye.
MTA?
Aye.
And DOT, New York State DOT is an aye. Thank you all. The motion passes. Next action is adoption of Resolution 512. I will now ask Jan Khan to introduce the resolution.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, members, and good afternoon. Within its compendium of agreements and operating procedures, NYMTC has a set of major project procedures which were adopted by the Council in June of 2008. The NYMTC members have been reviewing that set of the major projects procedures with a view of simplifying it and also making some adjustments based on time that has elapsed. And those adjustments essentially are variations in the thresholds for system preservation projects and enhancement projects, and also to add some definitions to the procedures. So Resolution 512, through Resolution 512, I should say, we're asking PFAC to adopt the new revised procedures which were agreed on by the members, and so to amend the particular section in NYMTC's compendium of agreements and operating procedures.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 512?
Motion, Nassau County.
Thank you. And may I have a second?
Second, Anne McGrain, New York City DOT.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Putnam County.
Aye.
Rockland County.
Aye.
Westchester.
Aye.
Nassau.
Aye.
Suffolk.
Aye.
City DOT.
Aye.
DCP.
Aye.
MTA.
Aye.
And New York State DOT is an aye. Thank you all. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So next we're going to discuss or adopt Resolution 513, supporting safety performance targets under the Transportation Performance Requirements. Jan, you're still up. Would you please introduce the resolution?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. The Federal Transportation Performance regulations require that safety targets be adjusted annually, both by the state and the Metropolitan Planning Organization. To meet these requirements, the state adjusted its safety targets in August of this year, of 2020. And so NYMTC had 180 days to adjust its targets too. Prior to now, NYMTC members agreed to support the state's targets. And so we have adjusted our targets by supporting the state's targets. And so Resolution 513 seeks to make those adjustments under the transportation performance requirements, and also at the same time to make amendments in the regional transportation plan, the current plan, Plan 2045, amending the system performance section, and also the transportation improvement program assessment that is in the 2020 to 2024 transportation improvement program. So we are asking PFAC members, or we are recommending to PFAC members to adopt Resolution 513 to accept the new targets for the new safety targets for 2021.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt Resolution 513, supporting safety performance targets under the transportation performance requirements?
So moved, Jack Schmidt, New York City Planning.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second, Chris Chatterton, Suffolk County.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the roll call. Putnam?
Aye.
Rockland?
Aye.
Thank you. Westchester?
Aye.
Nassau?
Aye.
Suffolk?
Aye.
DOT?
Aye.
City DCP?
Aye.
MTA?
Aye.
And state DOT is an aye. Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next action will be to adopt Resolution 514, and that is to amend sections of project proposals to be funded through federal fiscal years 2018 and 19 for Section 5310 Enhanced Mobility and Seniors with Individuals with Disabilities Program. I will ask David to introduce this resolution.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. Resolution number 514 selects the Center for New Horizons bus procurement for funding through the Section 5310 Enhancement Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disability Program. The project will purchase 4 vehicles to provide transportation for individuals with significant disabilities who will be moving into 4 new group homes in Nassau and Suffolk counties. These vehicles will be available 24 hours per day, 7 days per week for the individuals in these residencies. NYMTC staff urges PFAC to select this worthy project, which has been evaluated by a committee of the members.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt 514, which relates to adding this project under the 5310 Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program?
So moved. Anne McGrain, New York City DOT.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Pat Gurdon, Rockland County.
Thank you. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the roll. Putnam?
Aye.
Rockland?
Aye.
Westchester?
Aye.
Nassau?
Aye.
Suffolk?
Aye.
City DOT?
Aye.
City DCP?
Aye.
MTA?
Aye.
And state DOT is an aye. Thank you all. The motion passes. Next, we're going to adopt Resolution 515, which is an amendment to the federal fiscal year 2020-2024 Transportation Improvement Program, and that would include the AirTrain LaGuardia Airport project. I will ask Jay to introduce this resolution.
Hi, good afternoon. AirTrain LGA is a Port Authority project to construct and operate a new automated people mover system for air passenger and employee access to the airport. The project is currently under environmental review by the Federal Aviation Administration. Because this project is funded by the Port Authority, it doesn't affect the fiscal constraints of the TIP, but AirTrain LaGuardia qualifies as a project of regional significance, which means that it should be included in the TIP for informational purposes. So the Port Authority is requesting that PFAC add the project to the TIP at this time.
Thank you. So based on that presentation, I would ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 515 pertaining to adding the AirTrain LGA project to the TIP.
So moved. Sandra Fusco, Putnam County.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Sean Sally, Nassau County.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will call the roll. Putnam?
Aye.
Rockland?
Aye.
Westchester?
Aye.
Nassau?
Aye.
Suffolk?
Aye.
City DOT?
Aye.
DCP?
Aye.
MTA?
Aye.
And state DOT is an aye. Thank you. The motion passes. Next, we'll hear a presentation on adopting Resolution 516, which is an amendment to the state fiscal year 2020-21 Unified Planning Work Program. I will ask SAE2 to introduce the resolution.
Good afternoon. So Putnam County is requesting to add additional funds for their upcoming Southeast New York to Danbury, Connecticut link feasibility and planning study to cover higher than expected professional services cost. This action requires no new funding. NYMTC staff requests that you adopt this resolution.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 516, which amends the UPWP to add this action?
Motion, Chris Chatterton, Suffolk County.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Jack Schmidt, New York City Planning.
Thank you. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the roll. Putnam?
Aye.
Rockland?
Aye.
Westchester?
Aye.
Nassau?
Aye.
Suffolk?
Aye.
City DOT?
Aye.
DCP?
Aye.
MTA?
Aye.
And NYSDOT is an aye. So the motion passes. Thank you very much. So we have added a final action item to this meeting, which is not shown on your agenda. At this point in time, we would like to acknowledge NYSDOT's PFAC representative, Anne McGrain, who has been very active and a very dedicated member of PFAC since 2018. Anne will be leaving New York City DOT and the members of PFAC in the near term. And the staff of NYMTC would love to recognize Anne, her dedication and her commitment through the following resolution. Deb, would you read the resolution, please?
It will be my pleasure. Thank you. The resolution reads, whereas Anne McGrain has served as a policy advisor in the Office of the Deputy Commissioner for Policy within the New York City Department of Transportation, and whereas in that role, Anne represented the New York City DOT with dedication as a member of the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council's Program Finance and Administration Committee, and whereas Anne has been an active participant of PFAC from 2018 through 2020, and whereas Anne has made valuable contributions to the regional planning process in the New York metropolitan area, now therefore be it resolved that PFAC formally expresses its appreciation to Anne McGrain for her varied contributions and guidance provided to the council and to PFAC. With respect, I ask PFAC to please adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. So can I have a motion to adopt Resolution 517 to recognize the service? Very appreciative of Anne for her service on behalf of the New York City Department of Transportation. May I have a motion to recognize?
Gladly, so moved. Sandra Fusco, Putnam County.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
With pleasure, Jack Schmidt, New York City Planning.
Thank you, Jack. So I would say, is there any discussion? And I guess I would like to start off the discussion by saying, thank you. We appreciate everything you've done for this region. We know that our paths will cross in the future, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavor. So with that, I would open up to anybody else who would like to discuss this resolution.
I would like to take a very brief moment. This is Jay Sheffield with the Port Authority. This is sadly the second time that I've had to say goodbye to Anne. She'd worked for the Port Authority before she moved over to New York City DOT. And it's been a joy to work with Anne in both capacities. So she'll be sorely missed. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Okay.
I'll just say thank you all. It's been a pleasure working with all of you, and I'm sure you'll continue to do excellent work for this region in the future.
All the best. So let's call the vote. So Putnam.
Aye.
Rockland.
Aye.
Westchester.
Aye.
Nassau.
Aye.
Suffolk.
Aye.
New York City DOT.
Aye.
City DCP.
Aye.
MTA.
Aye.
And State DOT is an aye. Thank you all. The motion passes. again, on behalf of all the members and staff of NYMTC, I want to thank you for your service to PFAC, to the region, and to the citizens of the great city of New York. Anything you'd like to say before we part, Ann?
Nothing more on top of what I said.
Okay. Thank you. So I do want to confirm that the next meeting has been scheduled and it will take place on Thursday, February 11th. We will make details available of that meeting 2 weeks prior. And now it probably is the most difficult motion of the day. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Craig Later, Westchester County.
Do I have a second?
Second, Sean Sally, Nassau County.
Okay, I'm going to assume that nobody objects to the motion, but I will ask the question. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe, be well, and don't injure yourself shoveling out there today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Take care.